Hey guys, welcome back. So today I want to talk about the new Springfield Echelon. Well, what's the Echelon? Well, if you haven't been on social media recently, it's their new 9mm striker-fired polymer-framed pistol. Now, when pictures of this first hit social media, I saw them and I thought, well, you know what, not all that impressed. It's just another Glock clone in the same vein as perhaps a Shadow Systems or something, because outwardly it looks very Glockish. I think you'll agree. But after people started talking about it after the official launch, I started reading more about it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to order one because I do want to check this thing out. Yes, I'm aware of Springfield's treachery in Illinois. I don't want to get into all of that. I'm just talking about this new pistol because it's interesting to a lot of folks, myself included. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about this handgun. We've done some shooting with it this afternoon. We were able to come up with some opinions on the gun itself. We'll talk about the features of the gun. It's got some interesting features, and we'll talk about the overall quality of the gun. So we'll get started with today's video by first jumping into what you'll get in the box. We'll talk about shooting it, and we'll take it apart, all that good stuff. So stick around, and here we go with the new Springfield Echelon 9mm. A lot of folks ask me, how can I get involved in the firearms business in that particular community? And one of the best ways to do that is to become a gunsmith. Every gunsmith I know is just overbooked with work. It's a very good living. And so if you would like to become a gunsmith, you need to go to a gunsmithing school or become an apprentice for an existing gunsmith. But Modern Gun School is an accredited college that also works with veterans in the GI Bill, where you can go and get a degree from accredited college in gunsmithing and then go out and start your own gunsmithing business, which I think is a really great option. Again, throughout my entire life, gunsmiths have always been able to earn a really good living, assuming they have a really strong work ethic. So please check out Modern Gun School. I do have a link in the video description below. When you get your new Echelon pistol, it's going to come in this really fancy high-end cardboard box. I know a lot of people complain about that. I'm not one of them. Cardboard boxes are just fine. I don't care. Some people say, oh, you bought a SCAR and it came in a cardboard box. Yeah, but you're not buying a box or a case, you're buying a gun. Most people go out and buy nice cases for their nice guns. Anyway, so inside you're going to find a soft case. Inside the soft case, you're going to find the pistol. The Holosun 509 does not come on the gun. Some other stuff that's going to be in the box is your owner's manual-ish. This is just a link that you'll use your cell phone to pull up your owner's manual to register the pistol. It'll come with a test target, a gun lock, a 21-round magazine to go with the 17-round magazine. It's flush fit, magazine loader, a couple of extra back straps, the stuff to modify your other magazine, and then this is just the rear, the top plate that I took off when I put the red dot sight on. And then you'll have locator pins, which we'll talk about for the red dot sight mount, which is really actually quite robust. So that's everything you're going to find in the box with the new pistol. So now let's talk about field stripping it, features, all that good stuff in the next segment. And then we'll talk about shooting the gun, what it's like, our thoughts on it, how's that trigger pull, how's the, how are the ergonomics, how is the accuracy, how's all that stuff roll into this gun? Is it a good pistol? Is it, easy to shoot? Or is it just another blah, Glock shoot every bit as good and there's nothing really to be gained by this? We'll talk all about that. All right, let's go over the features of the Echelon. Then we're going to delve into the field stripping of the pistol. So let's start off back here. We have replaceable back straps on the handgun. It's a toolless design. You just reach up inside and push on the back of a little release, and the back strap will slide right off. And then you can pick from one of three sizes. It'll come with a medium. When you put it back on, you're going to want to make sure that you push down firmly and hit it with the palm of your hand, because it will not clip, and then it can just slide right off if you were carrying it. It has nice texturing. If you take a look at the grip itself, it's more along the lines of a Shadow Systems, more so than a Glock. If you take a look at a Glock Gen 5 next to it, the Glock's grip is very blocky, not very ergonomic. I like the way Glocks shoot, I just hate their ergonomics. This takes it to the next level. Again, very much like a Shadow Systems, and it has good texturing. It's not overly aggressive. And it has a nice undercut right here. Then we have ambi mag release built into it, so you don't have to reverse the magazine release if you're a left-handed shooter. You'll notice it has this raised ridge. I've seen people online say that looks ugly, it's unsightly, don't like it. But if you take a look at it, it's by design, and that's so that it will not easily allow something to bump your gun and drop your magazine out, either on the strong side, if it's up against your skin, nothing's going to hit that, or on the outside, if something hits the side of the gun, it's protected. So I actually like it, and it does not ergonomically seem to get in the way of anything when I'm firing the gun. Next up, we're going to get to the ambi slide stop slide releases. The only thing I can really ding here is a little bit minimalistic. They're kind of easy to miss, but they're in a good spot. You're not going to find that, at least with my large hands, I don't have a problem with getting false locks, like under recoil pushing up on it, or getting the gun not to lock open the last shot fired because I'm riding it. It stays out of the way with my hold. And so again, you don't have to change anything to get the ambi controls. Very left-handed friendly handgun. As we move forward, we have a inertial safety on the center of the trigger, very Glockish in design, very common these days. And then on the face of the trigger, you'll notice it's a very flat face trigger. It's a wide, flat face trigger. Feels outstanding on my index finger. Coming forward, you'll have your offhand shooting notch here for those people that still use that type of style of shooting. Out front, 1913 rail for accessories. Here we have a perch on both sides. It's raised, so you can index off of it with your firing finger, or both. You can rest your support hand thumb on the other side, and it's in a good spot. Again, large hands. Many times these are so far back in their location that my thumb goes right past them, so it seems to be in a good spot for me. Over here is your takedown lever. It's not like a Glock where you have two tabs you pull down. It's just a rotating down lever. Up here, we have nice, deep, sharp serrations. They're not overly done. I like how they feel. They give a very, very good feel to them. Back here, you're going to find that the slide is cut out. It's very VP9-ish in its style. The VP9 uses a plastic insert, which I've actually broken by abusing the gun. Under normal use, it wouldn't do that. But they've machined that into the metal slide, and so nice touch. That'll give you plenty of power there to clear malfunctions and things like that, even if your hands are wet. There's no serrations on it, but it's deep enough that you can get a good grab on it. Then you have really, really good sights on it. Deep U-notch. I like this style of sight. They are dovetailed and replaceable, and then we have a nice, bright front night sight on the front. So the sights are outstanding as well. Here's your extractor. Looks very Glockish to me. And then on the top, of course, you have a very robust sight mounting option. I'll throw a picture up of what it looks like. When I took it apart, I was really impressed. Have multiple screw holes, and then you have multiple pins. And these pins can be moved around. These are screws to attach things, but these are the pins that come in the box. And you can move the pins around on the slide so it will support whatever sight you put on there. It does not require an adapter plate. The only adapter plate I know of for a popular sight that's required to be something for like a P1 or P2 acro type sight, which uses a plate that it clamps to. Otherwise, if you have a sight like the RMR type optics and Leupold type optics, it'll bolt straight to the slide. No adapter plate. So overall, the gun is a very full-featured gun, outstanding ergonomics, no manual safety on this one, and then it will come with a 17-round magazine and a 21-round magazine in the box. These 21-round magazines seem to have been popularized by the MHS program for the SIG that wound up winning the U.S. military contract. So these 21-round magazines, seems like a lot of the manufacturers are now using those, but they are metal magazines, good quality magazines, and we've not had any functional issues with them. So all things considered, the gun is extremely full-featured. The fit, finish, everything about it is spot on. It's very, very nice. Now, the trigger itself is more of a rolling break. It has a nice, loud reset, so you will hear it. Right there was the reset, and then it'll have a bit of a shelf. You'll push past it, and it'll break again. But it's kind of a rolling break. You'll feel more resistance. I'm hesitant to call it a shelf on this pistol. Maybe it's different on other guns, but as you push on it, it just kind of rolls right into a break, much like the SIG P320. So I've gotten accustomed to that style of trigger for defensive style shooting. I find that I can actually shoot it quite fast. So All that considered, this gun really suits my needs. It fits my hands perfectly. It shoots extremely well, have no reliability issues. The only thing that we ran into when we first got the gun out to the range the first time was we noticed that trying to drop the slide release wasn't easy to do, but that has changed with some rounds through the gun. We would come at the slide release kind of with a thumb knuckle based on its location, and I was finding that it was kind of binding, and I was really having to push to get it to release. Jason ran into the same problem. A few hundred rounds later, not so much. We're able to hit that slide release quite easily. So that kind of rectified itself. So yeah, I can't really ding it for anything. The ergonomics are good. It sits nice and deep in the hand with that undercut, and it just feels really, really good and shoots extremely well. So all that considered, I like it so far. Now, we've had no reliability issues with the gun. All the shooting we've done so far is with Federal American Eagle. I want to thank our friends over at Federal for supplying the ammunition free of charge to the channel. Been shooting this stuff since I was a kid. Outstanding quality, great American company, staffed with a bunch of great Americans there. So American Eagle, good stuff, 115 grain ball. Haven't tried it with hollow points and all that stuff just yet. It is a full-size, duty-sized pistol. So if you look at it next to a Glock 17 Gen 5, you'll see it is in fact a full-size pistol. Now, will this fit in a Glock holster? I haven't really tried that yet. It looks fairly close. Maybe not a Kydex, certainly a leather. You could probably get away with it. And if you're one of those guys that likes your Uncle Mike's, oh yeah, it'll work just fine. But yeah, you can see the profile is very, very similar. But once again, it's not really a Glock. It has Glock elements to it for sure, but let's get inside of the gun and talk about that modular trigger system, which definitely sets it apart from Glock pistols. There's something I want to point out about the Echelon that I like, that is a little bit different than the current generation Gen 5 of the Glocks as of this recording. If you take a look right here on the grip, you'll see a cutout right there in the polymer. And that cutout is aligned with the base plate on the magazine, so if you have a stuck magazine in the mag well, you can pry that out simply by pinching it. Now, Glock in their infinite wisdom in the Gen 5s, they flared this out, so the flare is actually wider than the base plate on the magazine. And their solution to that is, well, just pinch it from the rear here. They've cut out the polymer here, and so their solution is pinch it in an unnatural way like this to strip your magazine out, because you're not going to be able to do it here because the flares on the grip prevent you from getting a hold of that base plate. That was one of the things I really disliked about the Gen 5. So that's a nice touch. All right, with that out of the way, let's disassemble the gun and take a look at it on the inside. First, I'm going to drop that magazine out. I'm going to make sure that chamber is empty. Then I'm going to lock the slide to the rear and then rotate the disassembly lever down. Release the slide, hold on to it so you don't launch it, and it'll come to right about there, and you can just lift it right off the receiver. All right, looking on the inside, you're going to say, wow, that looks very Glockish. Let's take the Glock apart really quick and show you that it is very Glockish. All right, so Glock and Echelon. Now you'll notice that the firing pin safety is forward on the Glock. It's back here on the Echelon, but you can see the strikers are very similar. If you take a look at the end, you have end plate caps a little bit smaller on the Echelon, and then the spring for the plunger and spring over here for your extractor is exposed. In the Glock, it's behind that end plate cover. But you can see that it's definitely inspired by the Glock, but it is not a Glock clone. All right, so let's set the old Glock aside here. Now, taking it apart, just take your guide rod, which is a polymer guide rod. It's got quite the spring on it that's captured. Take that out, and then you just take your barrel out. So very simple. Now you can also, take the end cap off, take your striker out and stuff like that. Very Glockish in its disassembly there. Not going to go to that length. Now, if you take a look at the other side, once again, we'll take a look at the Glock. You're going to say that looks very Glockish, and it does to a certain extent. You know, you got goofy parts back here, not really goofy, and you have, all the stampings and stuff going on. But if you take a look at them in detail, one isn't a copy of the other. Certainly the Echelon was inspired by the Glock, but it is in no way a copy of the Glock. What it's more like is the SIG. Why do I say that? Well, let's take the M17 out here, and you'll strip it very quickly. One of the key features of the M17 is that the M17, which this looks very similar to as well, you'll see that you have your ambi controls there and all the stuff inside. Very similar, not a copy, but certainly inspired by. But the M17 has a modular trigger system. So you just take this out and you can take your chassis out of the polymer grip frame and then change out grip frames. You can get thicker grip frames, longer grip frames, different colored grip frames. You can even get Wilson Combat grip frames for your SIG. And I would imagine if this thing gains popularity, which given what I've seen so far, it should, you'll probably see companies offering different grip frames for it, including Springfield. So you can get a flat dark earth, you can get longer, shorter, you know, whatever. So I've not done this yet. Let's try taking the fire control group out. I know that it should be simple. You just pull this out, very intuitive, I hope. I know with the SIGs, you can kind of struggle with that, getting past the detent. And then in the rear, I think you lift up the rear, push forward, lift up on the rear first. All right, so we figured it out. What you need to do is, well, you know what, I'm gonna take this off first so we can fully disassemble it. Just push that little tab, slide that off. All right, so to take this out, once we have this pin out, just pull that out. Then you're going to slightly lift up on the slide stop slide release and then just take the safety off, push the entire assembly forward, and it will pop right out. Now your serial number and things like that will be on this because the cog is the actual firearm, okay? Now once you take that out, it's polymer, although you still have your mag catch system in there. And when you push on the mag catch, you can see how that little latch works. What it's doing is no matter which side you push on, it just pulls that piece back. And that's because it locks on the magazines on the front. All right, so that's it. Very simple. Put it back together. Reverse the process. I'm going to set the trigger group in there. Let it go down nose first, and I'm going to pull on the trigger as I kind of put it in, and it'll drop right in very comfortably. All right, so now we have this little piece right there, that little dingus sticking out. That's spring-loaded. It slides back and forth, and that's what holds your takedown lever in place. You'll notice the face of the takedown lever has a slight taper cut to it, and that taper will push that little detent back, okay? So when you put this in, you're going to line that up with that little detent, push on it, wiggle it around. If you just apply constant pressure, that generally will allow it to push right past. Make sure that's lined up right. Apply some pressure, and it should just push right through. And then kind of rotate it, line it up with the other side of the hole. The hole on the other side, I should say. Like that. All right, now I do use a tool. I'm going to push back on that little detent, okay? Push back on that little detent, and that'll allow me to get this little doodad to actually seat. It'll push all the way through at that point, once you push down that detent. All right, and you want to make sure there's a little ledge there that it drops down, because if you don't have that fully seated, you go to put the slide on, you're going to have a hard time getting the slide back off. Ask me how I know. Okay, now, your little detent right there. I'm going to put that in the rear, push forward, strike it, make sure it's in. The lower's reassembled. Take your barrel, drop it in the slide, put your recoil spring in there and guide rod. Remember, you don't have to start from the front and slide it all the way back. You can just set it right about here, push down, draw it back, rotate your takedown lever back into the lock position, and the gun is back together. So how does this bad boy shoot? Well, it shoots very, very well. Great ergonomics, very flat shooting, very good trigger, at least the way I like triggers. That rolling break is something that I've become accustomed to, and I kind of like it in defensive handguns. Overall, it's just a very, very good gun to shoot. Now, how does it stack up against other guns like the Glock? Well, you're going to find it has a Glockish style grip angle, but as I've already pointed out, the Glock is much thicker, bulkier, and not nearly as ergonomic. Although I shoot Glocks very well, it's just because I've shot them for so many years. Now, Jason pointed out something I thought was interesting. If you take a look at the beaver tails, on the rear is just a little bit more substantial beaver tail on the Echelon, and with meaty hands, that keeps the skin from riding up and potentially getting in the way of the slide, Jason has very meaty hands, and so his skin can push up back here, and that has been a problem with him. Yes, you can put different grips on here that'll give you a beaver tail, but it also thickens the grip and makes it even less ergonomic in my opinion. So it's, again, I think I've said this already, it's more Shadow Systems feeling in terms of ergonomics. Smaller grip, not as thick, not as blocky as the Glock, and gives you that familiar Glock grip angle. The SIG, on the other hand, another popular handgun, it has a more upright position on the grip angle, so it's a less familiar grip angle to those of you more accustomed to the Glock grip angle, but this is a more conventional grip angle. The two are quite different, and I noticed that the SIG, for me, doesn't shoot nearly as flat as the Echelon does. And I've become quite accustomed to the SIG pistols. I actually like them quite a bit. But because there's so many different grip frames out there for the SIG with its fire control unit that's removable, modularity, you can change that up any way you like. So the P320 has that going for it. The Glock does not have that modularity. Glock is one of the things that Glock has really been dragging its feet on is they don't really make a whole lot of big changes to their handguns. So the lack of its replaceable fire control unit is going to be something that the competition is going to exploit, like the Echelon, like the SIG, to give them a leg up over the Glock in terms of competition. So overall, pricing, very good. Trigger breaks about 4 pounds, 4 ounces. We have that rolling brake, very controllable, very shootable, everything about it is just outstanding. I would say this is probably one of the best 9mm on the market right now. I would say that for those of you that are looking to Shadow Systems, you might want to take a look at one of these because it feels very similar to the Shadow Systems, but we've had multiple Shadow Systems handguns out here. They do require a break-in, and then some of those that we've even broken in, past 1,000 rounds, they still have the occasional hiccup. We haven't had that problem with the Echelon yet. So very impressed. Now, if something changes, if we break something, if the thing starts to malfunction or whatever, we'll do an update video. But as of right now, I think it's a solid investment. The gun seems to be very, very competitive. And I know a lot of you are very fatigued with polymer frame striker fired pistols. I see a lot of comments on social media, yay, another polymer frame striker fired pistol. But guys, that's where we're at. If you want new products, you're going to have to deal with existing technology. We're still dealing with gunpowder, lead, copper, and brass cases. And until that changes, there's not a whole lot we can do. Polymer frame striker fired pistols are just kind of the most evolved design type that's currently available out there. There's nothing newer until somebody comes up with something, and that may not happen. We'll see. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any comments about the Echelon, please comment down below. If you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms channel to help, so we can continue to bring you content like this, please consider becoming part of our Patreon family. Again, there's a link in the video description below. Right here on YouTube, you got the option of either thanking us or joining us right here on YouTube, and you can support us in the age of demonetization by clicking either one of those buttons right here again on YouTube. Please swing by, check out Copper Custom. Thank you for 15 years of support. We'll talk to you guys soon.